Hello and welcome back to Grade 7 Math. This is lesson number 5.1, Fractions and Decimals. We've spent a lot of time working with fractions. In the second half of our unit, we are going to look at the relationships between fractions, decimals, and percents. Today's lesson will focus on expressing fractions in decimal form. This is a useful skill to have, as in many cases it is easier to understand amounts that are written as decimals. And of course, one example of this is money, or it's much easier to say $1.25. We write that as 1.25. That's much easier than saying 1.25 dollars. We can talk about some more examples of where it's easier to use decimals than fractions in tomorrow's class. Now, to write a fraction as a decimal, we divide the numerator by the denominator. For example, 1/2 equals 1 divided by 2, which equals 0.5. And I've put a couple of examples right here. We have 3/5 and 5/8. And we'll work on the first one here, 3/5. So if we just use the strategy mentioned above, we will divide 3 divided by 5. And now using long division, using a calculator to back us up, or even using mental math, 3 divided by 5 equals 0.6. So you can just pause the video for a minute and give this one a try, 5/8. And then we'll take this one up in class tomorrow. The following fractions give repeating decimals. That means decimals that have digits that repeat forever. We can draw a bar over the digits that repeat to show that the decimal is repeating. And here's a popular example, 1/3. If we use our dividing strategy, 1 divided by 3 equals 0.333333. List goes on. It's so much easier to write 0.3 and put a bar on top of the 3. So here are another couple of examples. We've got 2/3 and we have 1/6. We're going to leave 2/3 to go over in class tomorrow. Let's do the example of 1/6. So I'm going to say 1 divided by 6. Again, using long division, using a calculator, even mental math. What you'll find is that 1 divided by 6 equals 0.16. And the 6's are going to go on forever. So we can just put a bar over top of the 6. Okay, we're not going to put a bar over top of the 1. The 1 does not repeat. It's only the 6 that repeats. So go ahead, pause the video for a minute and try out this example of 2/3, changing that into a repeating decimal. Changing a fraction to a decimal whose denominator is a unit of 10, 100, 1000, and so on is pretty easy. We can use place value. So for example, 7/10, you can say, well, there's only one 0 in 10. So that means that there's only going to be one digit after decimal. So in this case, 7 over 10 equals 0.7. Okay, then we look at 37 over 100, and there are two zeros in 100, so that means that we're going to slide our decimal over two places to give us an answer of 0.37. Okay, and a couple of examples here. We have 353 over 1000, and we've got 60 over 100. Let's work on this first one together. 353 over 1000, just write it below. Okay, there are three zeros in 1000, so I can slide my decimal over three spaces, so I'll get an answer of 0, decimal, 3, 5, 3. Again, pause the video for a minute. Try out this one, 60 over 100, and see what you get, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. When ordering from least to greatest, it is best to change any fractions to decimals. Then we can use place value to put the decimals in order. So let's use this strategy to put the following in order from smallest to greatest. Okay, as you can see, I've already got two decimals. So the easiest thing to do is to turn 1/6 into a decimal. And from my previous example, I know that this equals 0.16. Okay, so that means that if I'm going to order these from smallest to greatest using place value, 0.125 is the smallest. Okay, 1 over 6 is a little bit bigger, so it's number 2. And 0.75 is clearly the largest. Don't forget, we can use diagrams to compare and order fractions, much like we were doing in the first half of our unit. So here we've got 1/4, and that's the same thing as saying 0.25. Over here, we've got 1/2, which equals 0.5. And then in this final diagram, we've got 3/4 shaded in, and that's the same as saying 0.75. Okay, here's another problem for you to try out at home. And this will be much easier for us to go over on the smartboard together in class next day. Use the circles below to make diagrams to represent the following fractions. Then put the fractions in order from least to greatest. So what that means is I've already set up your circles here. You just need to pause this video, look at 3/4 and shade in 3/4. Same goes for 7 over 10 and 4 over 5. And what you should find is when you shade in these diagrams, without even having to change these fractions to decimals, you'll be able to compare the diagrams and then place the fractions in order, again, from least to greatest. So pause the video here. So that's a look at today's lesson. So after we review the video quickly, I'm going to give you a number of questions to work on in class, and then we will go over those together. And that concludes today's video.